Imagine a world that is globalized, a world of international trade, diplomatic letters between superpowers, and incredible wealth. This isn't our modern world. This is the Late Bronze Age, over 3,000 years ago. Around 1200 BC, the Mediterranean was not a sea of separated cultures. It was a connected, thriving network of empires. Think of it as an ancient version of the internet, a web of trade and communication linking everyone. There were the Egyptians, the original superpower, with their gold and their mighty pharaohs like Ramesses II. To the north, the Hittites in modern-day Turkey, masters of metalworking and chariot warfare. Across the sea, the Mycenaeans in Greece, the legendary heroes of Homer's epics, building massive palace fortresses. And in the Levant, the wealthy Canaanite city-states like Ugarit, the vital trading hubs where goods and ideas flowed. This was a golden age. Tin from Afghanistan was traded to Cyprus to be alloyed with copper, creating the bronze that gave the era its name. This metal was the key to everything: weapons, tools, and status. Ships carried not just metal, but also ivory, glass, spices, and olive oil across the entire known world. Kings wrote to each other on clay tablets, addressing each other as brother. They exchanged gifts, arranged marriages, and signed treaties. The world was sophisticated, stable, and incredibly rich. But this glittering world had a secret. It was fragile. This entire global system depended on a delicate balance. It needed stable climates for harvests, safe trade routes for ships, and peaceful relations between kings. It was a house of cards, built on bronze and diplomacy, and very soon, a wind was coming that would blow it all down. The first sign that something was wrong didn't come from invading armies or falling cities. It came from the sky. The rain stopped. For a civilization built on agriculture, a prolonged drought wasn't just a bad season. It was an existential threat. We know this now from science. Core samples drilled from the bottom of ancient lakes and studies of tree rings tell a story of a planet shifting. Around 1200 BC, the climate changed. The eastern Mediterranean became significantly drier. The effect was like pulling the first domino. Failed harvests meant famine. Famine meant rising food prices and economic strain. The carefully managed palace economies, which had stored and redistributed grain, began to creak under the pressure. The social contract between the ruling class and everyone else began to fray. At the same time, a new and terrifying word begins to appear in the diplomatic letters between the great kings. The word is pirates. Trade was the lifeblood of the Bronze Age world. But as resources grew scarce on land, the sea became more dangerous. Shipping lanes that were once safe were now hunted by new, ruthless seafaring raiders. The cost of protecting a shipment of tin or copper suddenly became more expensive than the goods themselves. We have an incredible piece of evidence from this time. A letter found in the ruins of the city of Ugarit. It's a desperate plea for help from the king of Ugarit to the king of a neighboring country. He writes that his ships are stationed elsewhere, and his troops are away. His city is defenseless. He begs for assistance. The reply from his ally is chilling. What can I do? It's the sound of a system breaking down. The great empires are so consumed by their own internal problems that they can no longer help their allies. The network of mutual protection that had defined the age was unraveling. The world wasn't ending with a bang, but with a whisper of dry wind over parched fields, the whisper of a distant ship whose intentions were no longer peaceful. That whisper of a distant ship grew into a roar, and from that roar emerged the most mysterious and terrifying force in ancient history: the Sea Peoples. Who were they? To this day, we still don't know exactly. They appear in the historical record, not with a detailed history, but as a sudden, violent storm. Egyptian carvings depict them as a ragtag armada of warriors and families in strange, feather-topped helmets, arriving in ships that looked nothing like the elegant Egyptian vessels. They were a people on the move, and they were desperate. The prevailing theory is that they were not a single people at all, but a chaotic mix of environmental refugees, displaced warriors, and opportunistic pirates from all around the collapsing world. They were the final symptom of the sickness that was weakening the empires. The drought, famine, and internal rebellions had created a wave of desperate, uprooted people, and now, that wave was crashing on the shores of the only stable places left. They hit the coast like a tsunami. The Hittite Empire, a superpower that had rivaled Egypt, vanishes from history almost overnight. Its great capital, Hattusa, is burned to the ground and abandoned forever. The wealthy trading city of Ugarit, the one that sent that desperate plea for help, is completely destroyed. Archaeologists found its last frantic messages to allies, unanswered, and then a thick layer of ash and debris. The city was so thoroughly destroyed that it was never rebuilt. In Greece, the mighty palace fortresses of the Mycenaeans, Mycenae, Pylos, Tyrans, are put to the torch. The complex Greek writing system, Linear B, is completely forgotten. Greece plunges into a 400-year dark age where literacy vanishes and people forget how to build in stone. One by one, the glittering cities of the Bronze Age go dark. It is a total system collapse. The globalized world shatters into isolated, terrified fragments. The only empire left standing is Egypt, and it barely survives. In a famous inscription at Medinet Habu, the pharaoh Rameses III claims a great victory against the Sea Peoples. He shows them being defeated in a great naval battle, but his description is telling. He says, "The foreign countries made a conspiracy in their islands. All at once the lands were removed and scattered in the fray. No land could stand before their arms. He defeated them, but he could not stop the collapse. The world he knew was already gone. The fires burned out, the raids stopped. The Sea Peoples, having nowhere left to conquer, eventually settled down, assimilating into the few struggling populations that remained." An eerie silence fell over the eastern Mediterranean. This was not peace, this was emptiness. The collapse was so complete that it plunged the region into a darkness so profound that historians call it the Greek Dark Age. For nearly 400 years, it was as if a great blanket had been thrown over human achievement. What was lost? Almost everything. Literacy vanished. The complex Linear B script of the Mycenaeans was completely forgotten. The cuneiform of the Hittites in the Levant fell silent. For centuries, no one in this part of the world would write a single word. History itself stopped being recorded. Grand architecture died. The knowledge of how to construct massive palace complexes, fortified walls, and monumental tombs was lost. People lived in small, simple villages among the crumbling ruins of giants, unable to comprehend how their ancestors built such things. Art became simple. The vibrant, complex art of the Bronze Age, detailed frescoes, intricate gold work, sophisticated pottery, was replaced by simple geometric patterns. The skill and the wealth needed to create masterpieces were gone. Trade networks shattered. The international sea routes that carried tin, copper, and luxury goods fell silent. Communities became isolated and inward-looking, forced to become self-sufficient. The world became small, poor, and local. The population plummeted. Archaeological evidence shows a dramatic drop in the number of settlements. Where there were once thriving cities, there were now empty hillsides. Famine, war, and disease had taken a terrible toll. Imagine the scene. A generation after the collapse, a child growing up in a small village within sight of the massive, fire-blackened stone walls of a Mycenaean palace. They have no idea who built those walls. They have no writing to tell them. They have no concept of the global network, the rich kings, or the sophisticated culture that once thrived there. Those ruins are just ghostly, silent mountains, a mystery from a lost world. The Golden Age was over. The long, slow climb back out of the darkness had begun. So what finally caused the collapse of these mighty empires? Was it the drought, the Sea Peoples? The answer is all of the above. Historians call this a perfect storm or a systems collapse. No single disaster could have toppled this interconnected world. Instead, each problem made the next one worse. The drought led to famine, which led to internal rebellions. This weakness invited piracy and attacks from the outside, like the Sea Peoples. The empires, already strained from within, couldn't help each other. The entire system became unbalanced, and then it catastrophically failed. The story of the Bronze Age collapse isn't just an ancient mystery. It's a powerful lesson for us today. We live in a new age of globalization. Our world is deeply interconnected through trade, the internet, and complex supply chains. We face our own set of systemic threats: climate change, political instability, and the potential for cyber attacks that could cripple critical systems. The story of the Bronze Age asks us an uncomfortable question: how fragile is our own world? The ancient civilizations made a critical mistake. They built a complex, interdependent system without a backup plan. When one part failed, everything failed. Their story is a warning. It teaches us the importance of resilience, of building systems that can withstand shocks, of remembering that even the mightiest civilizations are not invincible. The survivors of the collapse eventually rebuilt. New civilizations rose from the ashes: the Greeks, the Phoenicians, the Israelites, and they built a new world, learning from the ruins around them. The silent, crumbling stones of their ancestors' palaces served as a permanent reminder: nothing lasts forever. But from collapse, there can also be rebirth.